right, and we welcome you to this wonderful, loving community. Whenever you're watching, I hope that you are all safe and comfortable with your cups of coffee or tea or orange juice. And that you are in a good place this morning. And I invite you into the sacred space. And I invite you into the now. The only moment that we have is now. And so, in this moment, I invite you into that holy place, that high temple, that place of love, that place where your heart resides. And as you stretch out into that warm and comforting love of spirit, I welcome you in to the place that you have never truly left. Join me now for the inner healing experience. Universal love enfolds me. Universal wisdom inspires me. Universal spirit enlightens me. Universal power encircles me. I am one, and all is well. As we begin the inner healing process, let me invite you to relax in quiet confidence, opening yourself to the miracle-working higher power. Now symbolize the unity of your thinking and feeling nature by touching your chest with your right hand, and let my words act as your own for your own inner acceptance and receptivity. I acknowledge that there is a power, intelligence, and wisdom greater than my own. I am in the midst of it, and it is in the midst of me, sensitive and responsive to my every thought, word, action, and feeling. I now make this true for myself by saying aloud, I acknowledge. Acknowledging the higher power working through my life, I admit that I am personally responsible for solving my own problems, while being guided and assisted by something greater than myself. As I am ready to surrender the conflicts of my ego to the wisdom of the infinite presence, I simply speak these words, I surrender. Knowing that forgiveness is the key to unconditional love and the feeling of heaven, I now unconditionally forgive anyone and everyone who has ever injured me in any way, real or imagined. And I now forgive myself for all my mistaken judgments and their resulting actions. From my deepest level of understanding, now I say, I forgive. Realizing that I continually experience the effects of my own thinking, I now choose this higher power to recreate me deeply, filling my mind with thoughts that are only constructive, positive, loving, and beautiful. I call upon this divine inflow by stating aloud, I choose. I now center upon that one special idea I'm willing to accept as real for me in this coming week. Visualizing the idea as already acted upon and brought to pass. In seeing my idea become a fact of my experience, I enjoy the happiness and peace of my thought fulfilled and gratefully speak these words, I accept. Knowing that I have an everlasting place in the midst of the power that sustains all creation, as well as the support of all those around me, I allow myself to relax in the peace of fulfillment and gratitude and say, I release. Now, in my mind's eye, I envision the presence of someone near and dear to me. Family member, friend, mentor. Someone who has touched my life in deep and loving ways. Someone who is not physically present in the room this morning. And I turn to that image in my mind's eye and say, I am grateful for the good in your life. Now I open my eyes to the world around me and turn joyfully to the person next to me and share my gratitude and confidence by saying, I am grateful for the good in your life.
Good morning, Creative Life. Where am I standing? Here I'm standing. Where am I looking? There I'm looking. The red one or the white one? Okay. You would think, what, 9 weeks we're doing this, I should know by now. And we'll be doing it this way for a while yet, so that your comfort and your safety are assured. As Lisa said, you're sitting at home, comfortable today. What I have to share with you today is more paradox. Last week, the paradox of living in a material universe while being spiritual beings. The paradox of the celebration of Memorial Day and Memorial Day weekend, and people were jamming the pools and the beaches, and yet it's a very solemn time, and others were placing flags and flowers on graves. Today I have for you another paradox, which is the paradox in metaphysical teaching between living in the now and accepting the status quo. They are not the same thing. We live in a world right now that is unjust. We live in a society that is unjust. We see this, and how we see it and how we recognize it eternally is by the existence of a principle of divine justice that we know is there. Whenever you've had something wrong in your life, you've had something to compare it to, which is how you know it's wrong. You either have your own prior experience or you have a sense of a collective potential reality that you could make your own, that could be made your own. And so you and I know that something is wrong, and we know this in different degrees depending on who we are and how we are in the world, but we know that something's wrong and something's got to be done about it. And we're feeling a call to that, and we're seeing it in stark evidence that this is the time and that we are the people to do something about this and heal racism on this planet and heal the divisions that exist between us. Which are choices, and any choice that's made can be unmade and remade. You can make a choice to look toward, you can make a choice to look away. You can make a choice to love, or you can make a choice to hate, or you can make probably the most destructive choice of all, which is the choice to do neither one and just be in apathy and just be in kind of a state of torpor. Now there's a lot of rage in the world today, this weekend, this past week, and the rage is expressing itself sometimes in very destructive ways, and I don't support that, and no one does. Even the people who are engaged in it in the moment know on some level that it's not working for them to get what they need. You don't loot a store to get what you need. Ultimately, you do it to make a point, you do it to get attention. How about if we pay attention? How about if we pay attention to one another? How about if we pay attention to the hurts that we have? And before rushing into the question about how can we make this whole thing die down and go away and go back to what we were doing, how about being a little uncomfortable for a bit? I'm staying in discomfort until I'm ready to get out of it. I know what I know, and I've known it a while, about these overarching principles, the beauty and wonder of pure spirit and all, but I've also been on this earth with the people around me who are suffering. And yesterday, for example, we had 36 of us from the Creative Life community out feeding a group of people called clinically the Food Challenge, the Food Insecure. I have a different name. I think of them as the Hungry, but we had a line of cars waiting for us when we got there, almost an hour and a half before the event was supposed to start, and a pretty steady stream of people all through the morning. Later there was another event, slightly larger than ours in another part of the county. This is the 5th one of these that we've done, and before we did these we were doing something else with the food bank. And the question that I always have, whenever we do these events, and as fulfilling as they are to we who do them, and the love that we get back from the people that we serve, and there are tears, and there's prayer sometimes, and I mean, there's a real engagement. We're not out there to make converts, we're out there to hand out food. You know, there's a real sense of spiritual connection with folks. But the question that I always have within myself is, why are there hungry people? Why are there hungry people in this world, in 2020, in this world? In my community, a stone's throw from my house, why are there hungry people? I don't understand that. I understood it better after a man named Rodney Dickerson stood where I'm standing on this stage when he was president of the food bank 4 years ago, I think it was. And he explained to all of us, he said, the food insecure in the county, these are not generally people who are unemployed. These are not generally people who are unemployable. People with disabilities, people shut out of the workforce. He says these are generally people working 2 jobs. These are in some cases people working 3. And they still can't seem to make enough money to have the essentials in life. I want to know why that is. And I want to fix why that is. I want to get to the cause of things. And in this teaching, we're all about cause and effect. You've heard me say on a philosophical level that every cause is the effect of a prior cause, and every effect is the cause of a subsequent effect, and on and on. Well, this is true, but every now and then you got to just jump in there and isolate cause in the moment. You've got to pause time. You've got to stop the waterfall, you know, and say, here is the cause that I have isolated, just like in your own life. You know, what's the cause of the choices that you're making today? Well, it's prior choices that you made, and it's how, you know, how you felt about yourself 10 years ago, and what kind of childhood you had, and if you believe in reincarnation, who you were 12 lifetimes ago. But sometimes you just got to stop the process and say, in this moment, there's a cause at work here, and it's creating a certain effect. And if the effect is unworkable, you look to that cause and you treat that cause. And I kind of think that as almost a domino effect back in time, if you treat the present cause that's in the moment, the prior causes that led up to it are somehow affected because they all still exist within us. You know what I mean? We had a guy who do a workshop at Creative Life years ago called It's Never Too Late to Have a Happy Childhood. He wrote a book about that, you know? And it sounds glib and cute and all, but there's a lot of truth to that. It's like, where is your experience of your childhood? Well, it's still in you. Alan Watts, who we've been working through this month in his collection of books, stories called Just So, he talks about your past. He says your past, you're working on your past. He says your past is not driving you in any particular direction, unless you insist that it is. And he's talking about we who live in memories that are painful, and we make choices based on these things, and the situation has changed around us, but we're still living in the consciousness of what was. But what he doesn't address is when things keep happening, they're not the past anymore. Racism is not the past. It's not just a sordid history of our country and largely people who look like me that happened 150, 200, 300, 400 years ago as America was being settled and as slaves were being imported. And it's not just what happened, it's what's happening now. So it's not the past, it's the present moment. And it's in the present moment that we're empowered to choose. I can heal the past, but I choose now. I can redirect the future, but I choose now. It's all happening now. It's all happening right in this moment. What can I choose? How can I do life differently? You've heard it said lately, we need to do better. I think we need to do well. I think we need to do well. We need to do well. What's the right thing? What's the right thing? Your heart knows what the right thing is. You know, you put small groups of people together, you put 2 or more together, and they don't have a problem. But you get larger and larger numbers of people, and stories get told, and the people split off into groups, and they eye each other suspiciously. We're living in a time right now with this quarantine that we're gradually creeping out from under. I was reading a lot of people are still hesitant to go out. go to restaurants and all of this, because it's uncomfortable. We're living in a time right now where we've done the least healthy thing we could do as a society. We have holed up. We have holed up. Yes, there's been a reason. There's been a pandemic, and there are health considerations and all the rest of this. But it's like I told you 8 weeks ago. I read an article, really wonderful article on people and society and sociology and stuff a year ago, where it said the worst thing that you can do is have social distancing. The least healthy thing you can have in society is social distancing. The most healing thing you can have in society is called proximity. Proximity, where you put people next to each other and they learn differences and distinctions in behavior and background, and they learn how to get along, and so on and so forth. And so we are coming out of a time when we've been engaged in really unhealthy social behavior, and it's giving us an opportunity. And I don't know how all of that fit together into what took place in Minneapolis, or what took place in Georgia, or what took place in Louisville, or what has been taking place for hundreds, thousands of people that we never hear about. Hundreds of thousands of people over the years, maybe millions. I don't know how all of the different factors fit together. But I know that we know that there's something else beyond this, where we could live together, not in apathy, but in love, not in tolerance. I hate that word, tolerant. I tolerate you. That means I don't like you, I don't understand you, but I guess I'll let you breathe the same air. Not tolerance, compassion, empathy, understanding for one another. These are not alien ideas to us. The great spiritual teachers taught this. They sought out people who weren't like them, who they were warned away from. I'm thinking of Jesus here in particular. He's warned away from. You don't want to hang out with those people, and he rushed toward those people because they were the people that he saw that he wanted to uplift. Well, I refuse to pity a segment of society. To me, that's as destructive as ignoring them or attacking them altogether. Everybody's equal. Everybody's possessed of the same gifts. But some of us have got to give some of us a break. We've got to take better care of each other. The people in authority have to do not just better, they have to do well. They have to do what they were elected to do. They have to do what they were appointed to do, what they were commissioned to do. In some cases, we have to do well. I saw a line this week that really impacted me. It said, we haven't come this far to have only come this far. We haven't come this far to have only come this far. And where I saw this was painted on the sign of a protester in Minneapolis. We haven't come this far. So we congratulate ourselves. We in society sometimes, we congratulate ourselves about, well, things aren't, I've said this, I know things aren't like they were. They're not like, things are better. Things are better. Me saying this is the height of something. Because for me, they've never been that bad. But things are better. And I look at statistics and I read all of this, well, we haven't come this far to stop here and say, well, things are better than they were, but there's still this, and there's still this, and there's still this. So what I want to encourage all of us to do, go to Spirit, go to the place where nothing's ever been wrong, but absolutely bring it back into this world with you. Don't try to stay there and make this be so, what's that, be so spiritual, be so heavenly that you're no earthly good. That was I heard that years ago, where it's all perfect and it's all this and it's, no, down here on the street, down here on ground level, it's not all perfect. It could be, but right now it isn't. So what do? We ask the hard questions of ourselves. Where is my bias? What am I not seeing? I've had people say, When I say, or someone says, Black Lives Matter, I've heard people hurry it along into, but all lives matter. But all lives matter. Well, of course all lives matter. But black lives haven't seemed to matter. Black lives apparently haven't mattered enough. And that's why this is said. It's not an exclusive expression. It's an expression in the moment that has a need attached to it. Let me give you an example, and I was trying to think of a parallel for this, and this is what I came up with, and it's the best I could do. It's like if I have somebody in my life I'm in a relationship with, okay? My wife, or somebody really close to me, my kids, or what have you, and I say, do you love me? And I get back from that person, I love all living things. Now, what is that? The clinical term for that is blow-off. That's a blow-off. I love all living things. It's completely dismissive. And it's like I say, well, Black Lives Matter, well, all lives matter. It's let's look away. Let's not look at or toward. Let's look away. Let's change the subject of the conversation. Let's move it in a whole different direction. I've had people say to me, people who look like me, they'll say, and these are kindly people, they're not stupid people and they're not evil people. They're a little bit unconscious when they say this. I've had people say to me, I'm colorblind. They mean it metaphorically, but I'm colorblind. And that means everybody's one human family. Of course we're one human family. But sometimes if you're colorblind, you're just blind. You're not wanting to see people as they are. You're wanting them all to blend into the wallpaper so that you don't have to hear their voices, hear their cries, sense their pain, understand their journey. And I've had people say to me, I refuse to feel guilty. I didn't ask for white privilege. I didn't ask for all this. I've never owned slaves, So I refuse to feel guilty about this. All right, well, feel something about it. Feel something about it. At least be conscious, at least acknowledge the fact that your life has worked out a lot easier, a lot more doors have been opened for you than for other people who don't look like you. Just acknowledge that. And it's not a matter of you have to go back through those doors and close them behind you and your life never should have worked out the way that it has. It's like when Jesus said, give it all to the poor. A lot of people have taken that literally, and it's like, well, okay, here, you can have my shirt, you can have my car, you can have this and this and this. Your shirt's going to wear out, your car's going to break down, and all the rest of this stuff is going to fall apart. When he says, give your all to the poor, he means from in here. It means recognize the poor not simply as your sibling in life, but recognize how it feels. Go into that feeling. That's what compassion means, is to feel with. Go into the feeling about what would it be like to have nothing. I think about, again, the folks that we serve at the food drives, I think about this, and it's like, what if I didn't know where my next meal was coming? That's a feeling I've never had, I don't know where my next meal's coming from. I could always scrape something together. When I was in my early 20s and I kind of was a countercultural character, and I pushed things away and I wanted to live real simply and stuff. Sometimes I had no money and I had very little, but you know what? I had people I could call. And the fact that I didn't was just a matter of kind of false pride or something, but there was always been a safety net. There's always been a safety net for me. There's always been something like that. And I'm grateful. What would it feel like to not have that? I can't imagine it. I don't want to imagine it. So I need to imagine it. I don't want to go there. Look, I know some of this sounds paradoxical from a metaphysical point of view. The straight answer is it is. It is paradoxical. You've been taught in New Thought and religious science, don't think about what you don't want to bring about. But that's not entirely the case. The fact of the matter is to go into the state and feel it so acutely that you no longer fear it for yourself. You say, if I had nothing, if they took everything from me, I would still have a place where I could go and be okay. And that place is God. I would still have a place where I could go. But on the trip there, in my thinking, in my feeling, as I scare myself by imagining the possibility of losing everything I have, I begin to vaccinate myself against that sort of fear, while at the same time opening my heart to people who are in it right now where I can understand that. And suddenly a food-challenged person isn't just a statistic. It's not just a sociological description. It's someone in terror. It's someone in abject terror. And a person of color driving through a neighborhood or shopping in a store or doing anything out in society, jogging down the street, sleeping at home in bed, who expects through prior experience a danger that I do not. I must open my heart to that person and step for a moment into their, at least a moment, into their terror of what that must be like in order to be motivated to help make changes in society. Now, as to those changes in society, whenever you get a group of conscienced people together, we all say to each other, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. And I have to join you there. We discussed this in a class on Friday night. Out of that class has come an initiative. We're going to create for now, online event weekly. I can't tell you more about it than that, not out of secrecy, but we're still in the very formative stages. We've been talking about it since Friday night. This is Sunday morning, so give us a little. But you'll be invited. You, the CLC community, will be invited to take part in this. By take part in it, I don't mean sit in the grandstand or observe it. I mean really take part in it and what we can do. And it's about talking about our pain, and it's also about moving into certain non-political, non-partisan political action as people individually are called to do. We don't know exactly what to do, but we know that we hurt. And we know that we hurt because we know of the existence of the opposite of hurt, which is what? Joy. Not just pleasure, but joy, real joyfulness. We know that. And that is what we have experienced when we have seen each other, really seen each other, not as categories and types of little boxes, but really seen each other and been with each other as we do in this center, except maybe sometimes when we don't. And we fall back into the old ways, the old kind of knee-jerk ways of looking at one another and categorizing and sorting and all the rest of this. We have to stay conscious. We have to stay awake. We have to stay awake. Remember we talked about this, 3 or 4 weeks ago? And also I was sharing the Gnostic creation story in one of our classes, which briefly is this, because I think you'll find it helpful. There's a creation story that goes back millennia that says there are two forces in the world. They are not good and evil. They are sleep and wakefulness. And there's a power that goes around and it puts you to sleep. It says, don't look at that. Don't pay attention to that. Don't strive for more. Don't try to be more than who do you think you are. Stay where you're put. The status quo. Maintain the status quo. That's all sleep. And there's another power, the feminine power actually, named Sophia, who comes around, wisdom, and she wakes us up. She wakes us up. And how are we when we're woken up? We're groggy and we're bleary-eyed and we're mad because it's not time yet and the rest of this, and all of that. But now we're awake and now we can't not see and now we can't not feel and now we can't not. Well, try to stay awake longer. Try to stay awake longer. You don't want to stay awake the whole time. You get kind of crazy, but you got to rest your mind. You got to rest yourself from the news once in a while and process it. But when you're between news feeds, process the news. Process it. By which I mean this. How do I feel about this? Does this scare me? Does this scare me? Well, how do I react when I'm scared? Do I lash out? Do I hole up? What do I do with my fear? Who do I call about this? Not to make it go away, but just to hear me, just to witness what I'm saying. Who do I call? How do I go into the conversation about this? And then what can I do to lift this fear and its cause in my life and in the lives of the people around me? That's what we need to do. So, in the weeks to come, through June, I'm going to be talking about healing. That'll be spiritual healing, physical healing, relationship healing, society's healing. Reverend Arthur Johnson is going to speak on the last Sunday of the month, the 28th. Father's Day is in there, it's the 21st. We're going to be talking about healing. And what I know for you and I know for our community and your friends is there's a place within you can go to that loves you as its own. Let's go there now, shall we? There is one life. That life is our source. That life is our spirit. That life is the life of our life, the breath of our breath, heart of our heart. There is one. Now that one is just. That one is fair. That one is equitable. That one has within it perfect balance. That one has created you and me out of it in form, wearing bodies, walking this earth. And our role here is to outpicture that one in our thoughts, our feelings, and our behavior. Our role here is to give and receive unconditional love. One form of love is comfort. Come unto me, all you who are heavy laden, and I will give you rest. And one form of love is the implementation of divine justice, which in the moment may not be, and probably isn't comfortable. Or it's a rearrangement of priorities. It's a movement of power. It shakes things up. To implement divine justice is not the job of some court, some administration, somebody on high meeting in some faraway stately building. The implementation of divine justice is my job. And if you're hearing me this morning, your job. And if you're not hearing me this morning, your job. The implementation of divine justice through the very next choice up. How will I receive this? How will I process this? How will I respond to this? This situation, this person, this being. How will I address those implicit biases within myself? They categorize people into types and expect certain reactions and prepare for them in advance. How will I live in the now and take each person as I meet them and expect the best out of myself and everyone else? How will I do this? What is the next choice I will make? How will I forgive and let go, but at the same time cry foul when the same thing occurs again and again and again without ever being addressed? I know how to do this. This life was built to work, and I was built to work in it. So I know what to do on some level. I go now to that level of divine wisdom, guiding me, but never pushing me, never choosing for me, walking me up to the threshold and allowing me to walk through on my own. For this knowing, for the implementation of justice in this world through each one of us, and a just and equitable society, surrounded in unconditional love, where everyone has meaningful work, food on the table, loving companionship, and the awareness of the direct, unmediated access to Spirit that they have. For all of this, I am so deeply grateful. I release this word now into the infinite, calling it done, and so it is.
So with that, I ask you now to join me in saying, divine love through me blesses and multiplies all the good I am and have, all the good I give and receive. I am prosperous now, and so it is. And
Wow. That was amazing. Thank you both. So we give a shout out to Mary because she's really amazing. And one of the things that we haven't done is we haven't given out a shout out to Jeffrey,
yes,
who y'all haven't gotten to see on the camera because we only have so much play in the cameras. So he's back there behind his piano, but you get to hear him. So thank you very much, Jeffrey. He doesn't necessarily want to be on camera, but yeah. And since we're doing these shout outs, just so you know, Jesse does read the comments on the Facebook page because he sat down while Danielle was doing the announcements and read through some of them. So he does read them. Please do feel free to comment on them. And to Danielle for being there to respond to all of your comments. And one more shout out to Barb. To Barb, who has donated a great deal of the equipment that we're using, and given us crash courses on how to use the equipment to make this possible for you. She's made suggestions. She's donated a lot of the equipment, and so without these people, this wouldn't be possible. Or at least it wouldn't be as easy as it's gotten to be. So just big old thank you, because if we can walk out of here in an era of gratitude, then we're doing good, right? And on that note, when I do the opening part of the opening, I always say, let's get this party started. And since I'm closing, I'm not going to tell you to close the party down. I'm just going to tell you, carry on with the party, but it's going to be on your own time. Sacred party all the way. All right, so I invite you to take a nice deep breath and breathe in what you have heard today. Breathe in the love, breathe in the harmony, breathe in the peace, breathe in the discomfort, breathe in the hard conversation, breathe in the knowing that this is possible. There is one life, one power, one spirit, one presence, one love. I am a part of that love. Just as I know that each and every one of you are a part of that love too. That love flows in us, through us, as us. It radiates out of us. We are a channel through which that love comes into this world. And I now strive to be the best channel that I can be. So too do I know that for you. The love radiates out. And where it goes, it heals. Where it goes, it comforts. Where it goes, it makes safe spaces. And where that love goes, peace follows. I am an agent for that peace. I invite you to be an agent for that peace. Let the love radiate and be who you are, a beloved child of God. And I know this in the core of my being. I know this in the temple of my Most High. And I release my word into law, knowing that it is done. And so it is.
Say with me now, something wonderful is happening through me.
Something wonderful is happening through me.
I feel it in my body.
I feel it in my
I
body.
feel it in my mind.
I feel it in my
I
mind.
feel it in everything I am.
I feel it in everything I am.
I choose it.
I choose
I
it.
trust it.
I trust
I
it.
use it.
I use it.
And I love it.
And I love
So
it.
it